Fire Sword Chapter 2. Evaluation. Kazuto yawned and stretched as he rose, missing the familiar feeling of Asuna and Yui beside him. They were always warm in the colder mornings, and he missed their companionship as well. Still, it wouldn't be long before he saw them again, he told himself. He heard the other men waking up and beginning to get ready for the day, which, from what he understood, would involve weapons practice. At least that'll be something up my alley, he mumbled as he got dressed in the clothes that Robin and Crom had got him. He missed the menu that he had access to in the world scene. It made getting changed so much easier, but there was no point in wishing for something that wasn't going to happen for the foreseeable future. He joined the others quietly for breakfast, not surprised to see Asuna and Yui already up and about. Both of them had always gotten up earlier than he ever did, which was something he didn't understand. Why waste perfectly good sleep time? Good morning, honey, Asuna said brightly as Kazuto sat down next to her and Yui. How'd you sleep? It was more comfortable than I expected, but I still miss my own bed, the boy replied with a shrug. How about you two? He gave Yui a hug as she turned to him. Mommy went into her sleep cycle before me, but I didn't take much longer, the little girl answered. And it was nice and warm since there were two of us. That's something I never really felt in the game world. Kazuto and Asuna smiled at the girl, glad that even though they had landed in the strangest of circumstances, she was able to enjoy being IRL. With that thought, Kazuto asked his girlfriend, So, what do you think about all of this? Any ideas on how to get back? Not really, no. The girl shook her head. Honestly, I was going to leave that one up to you, seeing as you're the trans matter expert. Kazuto grunted, but said nothing in rebuttal, mostly because Asuna was right. He was the one that had gotten them into this, but he had no real idea how. So how was he supposed to reverse the process, especially when there wasn't even the slightest piece of electronic tech to be found? Kirito, Crom said as he walked over to their table, startling the young family. How does the morning find you? Well rested, I hope. Yeah, thanks, Kazuto replied. We all slept well enough, and the food is pretty good too. He took another bite of his eggs and biscuits, savoring the warm flavor. Yeah, but Mommy's food is better, Yui said brightly as Crom sat down. You should let her cook sometime. Perhaps, Crom said, unsuccessfully trying to stifle a smile. Although right now I'm more interested in your combat skills. I take it you use magic, my lady. Yeah, Asuna replied with a smile, but I really prefer to use a sword, specifically a rapier. You're a sword maiden? Crom seemed somewhat surprised. Well, then you'd be the second one I've met. Really? Yes, only a couple of the women and the shepherds are sword users, Crom answered. A few ride Pegasi and use lances, but for the most part they use magic and healing staves. Huh, Kazuto shrugged. Well, you'd be hard-pressed to find a faster sword maiden than Asuna. They used to call her Lightning Flash due to her speed. The first time we fought together, she stabbed so fast I couldn't see the tip of her sword. Interesting, Crom mused. Well then, Asuna, Kirito, would you care to take up some practice blades after breakfast and show us what you can do? Robin and I are interested to see if your claims are as much as you say they are, and if so, we'd like to offer you a place in the Shepherds, if you'd like. Asuna and Kazuto looked at one another for a moment before nodding their agreement. As long as they were here, they might as well repay the people that had been kind to them. That sounds good to us, Kazuto said. The only question I have is what will Yui be doing while we work with you, should we join? Robin and I already thought of that, Crom answered. We plan on training her to use healing staves so that she can stay with you guys if we ever need to go anywhere, but she'll be kept away from the front lines. Is that alright? This time, Kazuto didn't need to check with Asuna for an answer. That's perfect, he said. Thank you, Crom. When the time came, Kazuto found himself squaring off against the one called Stahl. I'd let you fight Longku or Vake, but since Stahl is our most moderate fighter, I figured he was a good place to start, Crom had said. Fair enough. Kazuto had selected two standard practice blades, while Stahl had a single blade and a shield. The setup reminded the young swordsman of his fight against Akihiko Kayaba, or as he had known him at the time, Heathcliff. The other shepherds and his family were gathered on the training grounds to watch the practice duel. Now the two fighters took up their positions. When you're ready, Robin called. Kazuto wasted no time in charging at Stahl, his blades moving into position faster than the eye could follow. The paladin was taken aback by the slim figure's speed, and he barely got his shield up in time to block the first blow. To Stahl, it felt as though twin hammers had struck his shield, sending him reeling backwards. However, the man was no pushover, and he quickly found his footing to right himself in time for the next attack. He countered the next powerful blows and struck back with his own sword. Kazuto blocked with his left blade and swung again at Stahl with his right. The swordsman had spent all of his physical fitness time practicing either against Asuna or his sister, Suguha, both IRL and in-game. This was his zone. His patterns, breathing, and footwork were all even, results of thousands of hours of practice, and having it be a way of life for 2 years. His next attack lowered Stahl's shield arm, and Kazuto seized the opening by whirling around and bringing his right blade down Stahl's shoulder, leading the rider to yelp and stumble backwards. Seeing that Kazuto was about to press the attack, he called out, "Enough! I yield!" The practice sword stopped a few inches away from Stahl's other shoulder. The older man sighed heavily and said, "I concede. Man, those are quite the moves. You should have been set up against Longku. He's a real master with the sword." Kazuto smiled and set his sword so he could shake Stahl's hand. "Thanks for the match, Stahl. I appreciate you trying anyhow." "No problem." And the two men walked over to the spectators, all of whom were impressed by the skill displayed by the strange young swordsman. Asuna and Yui congratulated the victor, while Crom and Robin consulted each other quickly. Then Robin walked up to Kazuto and said, "Kirito, would you mind fighting me one more match?" The young man shrugged, indifferent. "Sure, why not? Who do you want me to fight?" "Longku, will you take him on?" Robin turned to the surly Feroxy Swordmaster. The man nodded gruffly and walked toward the ground without a word. Kazuto followed suit, wordlessly preparing his swords again. He noticed that Longku held a practice katana, much like the blade favored by his old friend Klein, just before Robin called for the match to start. This time, Kazuto waited for his opponent to charge at him, except that he didn't. Longku approached in deliberate fashion, his sword not even positioned to strike. Kazuto was wondering what his angle was when the man suddenly flung himself at the boy with a speed that matched his own. Kazuto barely dodged in time, but this didn't stop him from retaliating. The two of them exchanged a series of fierce blows that resounded across the training grounds. The spectators winced at the power they were using, Asuna in particular. She knew Kirito's skill better than anyone, but if one of them slipped up or got lucky, bones were likely to be broken. After some minutes, one of Kazuto's blades broke into several pieces, forcing him to fight with a single blade. Here, it seemed that Longku would claim victory, for his two-handed sword gave him greater leverage in the fight. He pressed Kazuto back, step by step, causing both Yui and Asuna to tense up with worry. Then, Kazuto managed to pull off one last desperate attack. He raised his sword up extra high, inviting Longku to strike at his ribs. The Feroxy took the opening, which was what Kazuto had hoped for. He swung downward as fast as he could, as hard as he could. The result was the practice blade being struck from Longku's hand just as it touched the front of Kazuto's jacket. The man was so stunned at what had happened, he didn't see his opponent's blade until it was hovering near his throat. "Nice one," Kazuto gasped. "You're tough." Then he let the man go. Longku just stared, wide-eyed at the youth that had defeated him. "Only one person ever beat me, and even they could not do it that quickly," he guessed. "How did you do that?" Kazuto shrugged and tossed his practice blade aside. "I just gave him my all, like I always do," he replied simply. Then he walked off the field, utterly exhausted. Asuna was waiting for him with a hug and some water. "Good job, honey," she said before she kissed his cheek. Yui also hugged his waist, bringing a smile to his sweaty face. He said, "Thanks, Asuna." "Thanks, Yui." "That was amazing," a blonde girl declared. "I've never seen anyone beat my husband like that before." Longku frowned slightly at the compliment the young woman paid his opponent, but he said nothing on the matter. Kazuto hesitated, not sure if he was getting the whole picture. "Aren't you a bit young to be married?" "Hey, I'm 16, so I'm quite old enough, thank you," the girl protested. "As a matter of fact, how come you aren't married yet? My brother told me the story." Asuna and Kazuto flushed, but Yui replied, "Mommy and Daddy aren't old enough to get married where we come from. But they did get to pretend to be married for a little while. That's when I met them." She gave the blonde girl her most winning smile, hoping to disarm her and take her annoyance away from her parents. It worked like a charm. Lisa moved closer to the child, beaming and saying, "You must be Yui. Big brother told me you were a cutie." The little girl giggled happily as the girl introduced herself as Crom's younger sister, Lisa. While this was happening, Robin came up to Kazuto and said, "Kirito, we'd be delighted to offer you a place in the Shepherds. I take it you accept?" "I do. Thank you for the offer." The two men shook hands, and the bargain was sealed. Next to be evaluated was Asuna, who was handed a rapier replica. She swung it a few times to test the weight and balance before giving a nod of approval. It wasn't like her old sword, but it would do for practice. She found herself facing off against the woman Cordelia, whom Kazuto said she bore a passing resemblance to. Taking in the seemly build and the flaming hair color, she had to agree with her boyfriend. The biggest difference between the two of them was that the other woman held a practice lance as her weapon of choice. "When you're ready," Robin called out again. Asuna's sword became a blur even faster than Kazuto's had. Cordelia was ready, though. She had studied Kazuto carefully during his match with Longku, and she knew from that battle that whatever he had said about his beloved was likely true. She used her weapon's superior range to keep Asuna at a distance, careful not to give her any openings that would allow her to get inside the spear's range. Both of them managed to remain on even footing for several moments, like Kazuto and Lonku had been able to. This was signal enough to Robin and Crom that Asuna was also capable enough to join the Shepherds, but both of them wanted to see who would win. Again, in the end, the skills learned in Sword Art Online allowed the younger opponent to claim victory. Playing her sword in a slant, Asuna deflected the lance off to the side just enough to get inside the range of the lance and followed it by whipping the blade within centimeters of Cordelia's face. So close was the wooden blade that the Pegasus Knight felt the breeze from the blow and knew that if it had hit, she would have a very broken nose. Robin saw this and called the match. "To Asuna goes the victory," he declared. "Well fought by both of you." The two girls shook hands and thanked each other for the match before going to take a breather. As she had done with him, Kazuto made sure that Asuna had water and a compliment waiting for her. She smiled at his efforts and accepted a hug from Yui as well. As before, Robin came up and offered her a position in the Shepherds, which she accepted smoothly. "Thank you for your endorsement, Sir Robin," she said with a smile. "You are most welcome," he said, returning the smile. "Now we just have to—" "Sir Robin! Sire!" A messenger ran to the training grounds, calling for Crom and his tactician. "A messenger from Regna Ferox awaits you in the throne room!" "Ferox?" Crom and Robin said simultaneously. A few hours later, Robin and Crom returned, their faces grim. "Pack up, everyone," Crom ordered. "We're marching to Regna Ferox tomorrow at first light. Cordelia, you and Sumiya are going to gather up those that are not in the capital and meet us at the border in 2 weeks' time." The announcement caught everyone by surprise. "What's happening up in Ferox, Blue?" Gaius asked while sucking on a lollipop. "They're being invaded, apparently," Robin answered. "The continent Volm is planning on taking them out first, then moving on to Plegia, and finally, the Haladam." There were several mutterings of surprise around the room. Asuna and Kazuto were lost, but they assumed that they would be able to catch up on details during the trip to this Ferox place. They understood the main point, though. Elise was in trouble, and now was time to take up arms for those that couldn't fight for themselves. In a way, it reminded the couple of their time in Aincrad. For now, though, they needed equipment. "Crom?" Asuna asked as the man passed by them. When he gave her a questioning look, she said, "Kirito and I need some equipment if we're going with you, right?" "Ah, yes," he agreed. "Robin, see what you can do for them in the way of weapons before tomorrow." The tactician nodded his agreement, leaving Crom to go attend to paperwork that was required for mobilizing the troops. The blond man showed them the way to the armory with Yui in tow, chattering happily with Asuna while Robin and Kazuto talked to one another. "What kind of weapon and armor would you prefer?" Robin asked. "Well, I don't like wearing armor since it tends to slow me down," Kazuto answered. "And as for swords, I prefer heavier blades. But I know Asuna would prefer a rapier and maybe some light armor. Yui can have whatever you usually issue healers." "Alright," Robin nodded. "I think I can do that. And I completely understand what you meant by armor slowing me down. I have the same problem." "Wait, so you fight in that robe?" Kazuto asked, surprised. The attire looked too fancy to be used in battle, more like something a priest might wear if the colors were lighter. "Yes," Robin answered, seemingly unperturbed by the question. "Anyways, here we are." As he led them into the room lined with armor, weapons, and staves of all kind. He watched as Asuna immediately went for some light half-armor and selected an elegant rapier. As she was doing that, Kazuto began rifling through the rack of swords, picking a few and testing their weight before putting them back where they belonged. Suddenly, Robin realized that Yui was standing by idly, unsure of what to do. Robin reminded himself that Yui had yet to be evaluated in her abilities. So he came up to the little girl and said, "Would you like help in picking something out?" "Oh yes," she chirped happily. What do I get to use?" "Well, your mom and dad don't want you fighting where you could get hurt, so they want you to be trained as a healer," he answered. "So why don't we start there?" He pointed at a staff rack as he made the suggestion. "Okay." That seemed to be one of Yui's favorite words, Robin thought. He led her over and handed her a standard heal staff. It would be easy enough for anyone with the right skills to figure out how to use. As soon as Yui touched it, the rod's crystal glowed faintly, signifying that it was prepared to be used, bringing a smile to Robin's face. "Looks like we have ourselves a natural here," he said thoughtfully. "What's that?" Kazuto's voice came from behind Robin, so the tactician turned around to see Kirito holding 2 blades, both of them standard steel blades. "Oh, wait, is there some paint or something I could use to mark these as mine?" "Yeah, but I'd rather wait for that until everyone has their equipment selected," Robin replied as he straightened. "Alrighty done," said Asuna. The other 3 fighters turned to see Asuna with her sheathed rapier in hand. She looked so similar to how she did in SAO that Kazuto's mind flashed back involuntarily to the adventures they'd had together. The only thing lacking was the Knights of the Blood Oath color theme. Yui slipped in between Robin and her father to get a good look at Asuna and squealed with delight when she did. "Mommy, you look just like you did in Aincrad." "Thanks, Yui," Asuna chuckled. "What's this you've got?" "Oh, Mr. Robin gave it to me," she said as she showed Asuna the healing staff. "It's supposed to have some healing magic in it. He said he'd show me how to use it, too." "Actually, the nice lady that was talking to you earlier is going to handle that," Robin corrected her. "I can't use healing magic, although I am a competent mage." Wait, you guys can use battle magic? Asuna asked. I might know how to do that. Really? Robin said with a raised eyebrow. How do you cast spells where you come from? By speaking words of power in a magical language, Asuna replied. Isn't that how it works here? No, Robin replied immediately. He pulled out a yellow book from within his robe and said, We cast spells from our tomes in Elise. You have to picture the spell in your mind before you speak its name and cast it. Actually, speaking the name is not a necessity, but it does make concentration easier. Can I see? Asuna pressed. Maybe I could figure out how to do it from watching you. Robin considered the proposal for a moment before nodding his agreement. Sure, he said. Why not? The four of them were on a target range after getting a hold of scabbards for Asuna and Kazuto. Downrange, archers were firing arrows into targets at various distances. Closer to them, a tall woman with glasses was casting a number of different fire spells and writing notes into a separate book as she did so. Robin held a yellow tome in his hand, close to his body as he prepared to cast the magic. Stand back, he told them. I'm going to be casting a more complicated spell than what we usually start people off with, but this is just so you can get an idea of what to do. When the family moved back to a reasonable distance, Robin switched his attention to the three targets down the field. He flipped open the book and stretched out his hand. A series of glowing runes began swirling around his body as he reached for the magic. A matching set appeared around the targets he had selected, whereupon he shouted, Arc Thunder! The targets were instantly struck by bolts of chain lightning and smashed to pieces. Whoa, Kazuto said. In Alfheim, a spell like that would take at least a dozen words to cast, not to mention your mana would be halfway gone. Yui and Asuna seemed similarly astonished, but neither one of them commented on the matter. Robin walked up to Asuna and said, Well, does that seem like something you want to try out? Or would you rather stick to fighting with your sword? What do you think, Kirito? Asuna asked her boyfriend. I think it's a good idea, he said after a bit of thought. You'd be pretty effective with your swords in a vanguard position, but if you learn magic, you could be in the rear guard, closer to Yui. Yeah, you're right, she agreed. Okay, Robin, will you please teach me how to use combat magic? When we get on the road, I'd be happy to, he replied. But for now, I have some other matters to attend to, strategy drafts and the like. Would you like some help with that? Kazuto's offer surprised Robin. What do you mean? Asuna and I used to plan battle schematics all the time, Kazuto explained. Under our command, the worst number of casualties we ever suffered was 2 out of 50-odd fighters. That's rather impressive, actually, Robin said thoughtfully. Tell you what, come with me to my quarters tonight, Kirito, and we can discuss strategy over some maps. Asuna, please take Yui to Lisa so she can be outfitted and taught the basics of healing. Sound fair? Sure, Asuna agreed. Good luck, you two. And she kissed Kazuto on the cheek before heading down the hall to the medical chamber with Yui in tow. You've got yourself quite the happy little family there, Robin said with a smile as they came into the room in his castle. The place was littered with maps and numerous pieces of wood that resembled various battle units. How did you meet Asuna? Kazuto chuckled at the memory. We first met at a strategy gathering that was held to take out a monster called Elfang, the Kobold Lord. She and I didn't know anyone else at the meeting, so we decided to pair up for the battle. After the battle, we went our separate ways. I was a solo fighter, and she went on to become the second in command in the top guild of Einkrad. She and I actually used to argue about certain strategies for nearly a year after our separation. No one would have called us friends. But then we ended up working together on a private case, and we sort of got that old chemistry back from when we first worked together. And the rest is history. He smiled at the memory of the meal that he and Asuna had shared after he got a hold of the raggedy rabbit. That's quite the story, Robin said. But you didn't tell me the part about how you met Yui, which was something I was looking forward to hearing. You didn't ask about Yui, Kazuto replied lightly. True, Robin agreed. But we'll have some time to discuss that later, I suppose. Right now, I could use another perspective on this draft I've written up in the case that we have to fight on a harbor and potentially on docked ships. Care to take a look? Sure. Let's see.